This is episode 13 of Ken's Dark Corner, and I've titled it Axis of Awful. I'm going to tell you about more Puppet Master movies. Back in episode 2 of Ken's Dark Corner, 3 months ago now, I told you about the Puppet Master movies up to the 9th Puppet Master movie. That 9th movie was a movie called Axis of Evil, released in 2010. And I don't think I said that great of things about it back in episode 2. Well, Axis of Evil was the first entry in a trilogy of Puppet Master movies called Axis of Evil, Axis Rising, and Axis Termination. And these things were released in 2010, 2012, and 2017. And I've now had a chance to watch the second and third of those on Tubi. They showed up there, courtesy of Full Moon Entertainment. There's a whole bunch of Full Moon Entertainment movies available on the Tubi app. And so if you're a fan of those like I am, I mean, I say these things are awful, but, you know, they're charming in their own kind of way, as awful movies can very often be. And so I can recommend going to watch Full Moon movies, even though most of them are pretty bloody awful, right? Because we're all friends and we like these kinds of things. And so I wasn't able to talk about the whole trilogy back in episode 2, but now I can. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going over it, but in the sequence of Puppet Master movies, if you've seen these before, they're about little creepy puppet dolls that have lives of their own once they're injected with serum that the inventor Andre Toulon came across back in World War II. And at various points in this series, the timing of the movies has either been back in World War II itself or has come forward into modern day. In this particular trilogy, we are back in the World War II era, where Andre Toulon has fled Germany with his puppets and taken up residence in a creepy old Shining-like hotel, I believe in Colorado. And in this particular trilogy, what happens at the beginning is Andre Toulon is killed by Nazis who have tracked him down to try to discover his secret of his puppets and take the puppets back. And the puppets are found by a young man who lives in this area and works at the hotel where Andre Toulon was staying. And so he gets possession of the puppets. The puppets are like wrestlers in that they're either faces or heels, depending on what movie you're watching. So when the Puppet Master films first started out, they were heels. They were evil and to be feared, but they were endearing enough that the story had to gravitate to where you actually want to root for the puppets. And so that's kind of the case here, where the puppets and the young man who is controlling them now are trying to keep them away from Nazis and foil a Nazi plan to do damage in the United States. And the Nazis end up learning how to create some of their own evil puppets. And so then we have puppets against evil puppets, which is kind of interesting for a while. Now, why they decided they needed to make a trilogy out of this particular segment of story when they already did 8 other movies before they got to this. Why a trilogy now? I do not know. There really wasn't enough story to make this thing go through a trilogy, and you could tell that there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into the stories or the casting as they got this thing started. In 2010, Axis of Evil I don't want to call it a reboot, but it basically reset the story from a particular point in time with a new set of characters. And then when they got to Puppet Master 10, Axis Rising in 2012, the same characters were in the second movie, but they were played by different actors. And this was only a 2-year gap between those 2 movies. And then in this third movie, there is a 5-year gap in between the release dates of these movies. These characters were played by the same characters or the same actors as they were in the second movie. However, the characters that had been with us all along the first 2 movies, whether played by group actors A or group of actors B, they basically vanish very early on in this third movie, and so they didn't even retain them character-wise. So there's very, very good parallels with wrestling in that there's not a whole lot of forethought or planning going on in these things. But anyway, you have a trio of three movies all taking place during the years during or after World War II, where somebody else has control of the puppets, and they are trying to stop the Nazis from doing bad things, and the Nazis have their own puppets as well. And so in these three movies, the first one that sets the stage it's okay. Of the three movies, the second one is the best, Axis Rising, released in 2012. That has the puppets against evil puppets, which is kind of fun. And the new actors that played the main characters in these movies, I think were better in the second film than the first film, and so they were a little bit more fun to watch and engaging as characters. And then the third movie, I don't even know what happened in this movie because I couldn't really follow it anymore. It's not that it was complicated, it was just that I didn't care. And they threw us over into other characters instead of the ones we've been following. And a lot of the set piece or a lot of the settings of the third movie were basically constrained to a couple of different rooms with people sitting around hatching plans with each other and not a whole lot of action. And so it got dull. So in terms of the Puppet Master movies, if you've liked the Puppet Master movies and you've been watching them all along, then sure, go ahead and watch these. If you want an introduction to the Puppet Master movies, just go back and watch the first three and then stop. Maybe if you really, really like them, dive in and watch more, but there's no particular reason to seek these out on their own, other than it's a standalone story and they're available on the Tubi app, which is free. You can watch these movies for free with no effort other than installing the app. And so, your phone, your Roku, whatever device it is, you could probably find it there. So it's easily accessible. Now, there is a brand new Puppet Master movie that came out in either late 2017 or this year, 2018. And it's called, I believe it was 2018, and it's called Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich. And it is a reboot of the Puppet Master series again. And I was going to watch it and add it to this recap, but it was available for rental for only for like $4.99. Now, most movies on Amazon, you can rent standard def for $2.99, and this one was $4.99, and I was like, no. So I do have my limits. If I know it's going to be awful going into it, I'm not, I have that mental threshold of what I will and won't pay to rent to watch it. So maybe when that price comes down, I will sacrifice myself so I can warn you or recommend it. Next week, if I can get my act together, I've had my eye on watching on Amazon Prime. The Exorcist 3 is up and available, and also a movie called Dominion, the prequel to The Exorcist. And I don't remember if I've seen that before, so I'm actually curious to go back and watch it. And so I may try to put together sort of an overview of all of the Exorcist movies. Watching the original is always a good idea. Watching the second one is never a good idea, but I will do it for you because I care. And then I'll watch Exorcist 3, which I haven't seen for a long time, and I have been wanting to watch it again. And this other one, the Dominion, the prequel to Exorcist, I honestly, like I said, I don't remember if I ever saw it at all. And so I'm definitely curious. I'm not expecting great things out of it, but yeah, who knows? Maybe there's something to it there. And so that's what will be possibly coming up next week. We'll see. This is also going to be a busy wrestling week, so we're not doing the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program today. But next weekend, there will definitely be an episode because I will be on site and recording both Friday night at Acme Championship Wrestling and then also hopefully Saturday night at New Generation Wrestling in Crawfordsville. So check Facebook for Acme Championship Wrestling and New Generation Wrestling, both with shows coming up next weekend. Okay, so the main event here on Mostly Metal, here on WVLP tonight, has been playing through all of Tiara by Seventh Wonder, and we've gotten up through the story. Okay, for people that are kind of straggling in, okay, here's the story. The Everones are in outer space and they want to blow up Earth because we suck. And humanity is basically caught up in itself, although one hero girl named Tiara has stood up and kind of been the carrier of the torch of humanity, and she is being sent out into space to meet with the Everones and convince them that Earth is worth saving. And so now we get to track 9 called The Truth, which is basically where she gets to lay out the case to the Everones. Why should Earth not be destroyed? And she's been prepped by humanity or their representatives with their own hubris, which has been seen earlier in different tracks. And they have a script for her to follow. And she doesn't follow the script. The end of this song, you'll hear the lyrics, "I speak before you today." She's talking to the Everones, and you'll know when it's her and when it's the Everones in the lyrics because of the sound of the vocals. But this is where they finally meet, and you'll hear these lyrics, "I speak before you today. I can't say what they want me to say because I was raised to be honest and true to myself. These are my words, my choice, my truth." So let's see how that goes. This is track 9, The Truth, and it's followed by track 10. I'm not going to say much to spoil it, but the title of the song is By the Light of the Funeral Pyres, and with the energy that track 10 starts off with, you might have an idea of how this is starting to play out.